Hey friend, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp and one of your co-hosts here at the Fit Body Inside Look. Now this show is for our franchise partners and for those who are interested in joining our brand, where we execute meaningful interviews with our franchise partners, internal HQ team, coaches and clients to be able to provide you more insight and to get more acquainted with our brand and also to showcase the business opportunity available. Thanks so much and enjoy the episode.
What's up, friends? Welcome back to another awesome episode of Fit Body Inside Look. I'm your host, Jake Stewart. Today, I get to sit down with my man, Tommy, and he tells his incredible 9-year business ownership experience and all the things that led up to him getting there and how he used his passion for a purpose and is changing lives all across his community. So we're really excited for this episode. Without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Jake Stewart, your host of the Fit Body Bootcamp Inside Look. I'm here with Tommy today. Tommy, thank you so much for taking the time and sitting down with us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
We're also glad you're here. We're really excited to kind of get to know you, get to know your business ownership story. But before we do any of that, so obviously we can talk for hours about Fit Body Bootcamp, I want to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So let's start off just kind of with where your location's at. How long has it been open and operating?
Yeah, so we are in the Oklahoma City area. We're south, a suburb called Moore. And we've been going for 9 years now on, next month. The reason I remember that is we opened up on my birthday in 2015. So
awesome.
There you go.
Well, happy almost birthday.
Yeah, there you go.
That's incredible. That's awesome. That's a long time. So something that I've mentioned in a previous episode was, like a, typical small business doesn't make it past the 3 to 5 year mark. 3 to 5 years in, usually, maybe they're not making rent. Usually, maybe they're not like being able to pay that overhead. So the fact that you've been open for 9 years, that's a true testament to how awesome I'm sure your team is. And we'll get into all the X's and O's in just a bit. Let's talk a little bit more about you first, though. So I'm curious to hear, what is your fitness story? So what has fitness looked like for you throughout your life? Have you ever had any issues with fitness? Let's talk it through, maybe from when you were like a kid up to like your adult years, and just kind of give us a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So my dad, I was adopted when I was 4, and my adopted dad was very much an athlete and very much that dad, and I can remember he took me down to the local Y or whatever when I was probably 5 or 6, trying to get me signed up for the wrestling team. Of course, that was a little early, so I did start in 2nd grade.
Oh, wow.
So I wrestled for 10 years, which is quite a grueling routine there. A football player for about 6 and other sports for a variety of years. So I think the concept of coaching, I was really raised in that mindset. I think that I always tell people that wrestling in particular was very special because it is that one-on-one sport, very grueling, teaches you responsibility. And so, that went a long way, I think, in kind of determining how I was coming into my teen years and into a young adult. So that would be early on. I think as life moved on, you get older, and so would just stay active. But pretty much for me, in the early years, that's how it went.
Yeah, so a lot of sports and stuff, and that's very, very typical. Actually, a lot of our Fit Body owners, used to be athletes, and they're still looking for something. Like a lot of times, typically people that played sports don't really like having like a regular 9 to 5 job, like sitting at a desk. That's usually not their jam. They like to be moving around. They like to be staying active. So you said your location's been open for 9 years. Let's go back about 10 years ago, I would probably have to assume. How did you find Fit Body Bootcamp? What drew you in to opening your own location?
So we'll actually have to go back about 13 years. So I'm from Oklahoma, born and raised in Tulsa. Took an assignment in my previous career in California. And one day a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go to the gym." Well, I thought he meant like the gym, where guys,
box gym,
where guys go and do what guys do. And so lo and behold, we ended up at one of the very first Fit Body boot camps up in Modesto. And that's how it started. I walked in the door. I'd never seen a place like that. I'd only been lifted weights and doing guy things, So it looked very different. It looked easy from the door, And so that was it. I had a bunch of weight to lose at the time, probably about 40 pounds. And so I was a client, first of all, at Fit Body for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
So I moved back to Oklahoma in 2013, and then 2 years later, I had it in my mind we would start one. I remember being at that Fit Body in Modesto going, I love this. I love this routine. I love this speed. I love the timing. And having been somebody that had been around workouts a lot of my life and that whole thing, it really just appealed to me, and I liked that part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's really great. And that's, again, a very similar story to some of our other owners. They started off as boot camp clients and then turned into owners. So actually at my location in Mission Viejo, California, we just had an ownership change. So we had somebody take over ownership. She was a client for 8 years in Placentia at the Fit Body Boot Camp there. And just, again, fell in love with the brand and absolutely loved it. So one, I would recommend anybody sitting at home, if you've never tried a Fit Body Boot Camp workout, go give it a try. Even if you think you're Mr. Muscle Man or you like to go do your bodybuilding split or whatever it is, I had the exact same experience coming into boot camp for my very first time about almost a decade ago now. I remember coming in thinking like, oh, I'm going to like wipe the table with these people. Like I'm going to like run through really super easy. And then they had to peel me up off the floor once it was all said and done with. So I think that's really, really interesting that you have a very similar story in that regard. And it's really cool that you got to see it from a client lens turn into an owner lens. So was there anything specific? So obviously you were going to Fit Body. So what were some of the things that you saw that you thought like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome, I need to own one of these?
Yeah, I think that for me, I'd like to think that I'm a purpose-driven kind of individual. And I think, there would have been nothing wrong to go into the laser tag business. That'd be great. Go in, have a business, make some money. But I feel like a lot of people end up at Fit Body because they want to do something significant. And really in life, how many things can you do where you can turn around, you can say, I actually changed somebody's life. I actually impacted somebody in a way that really matters. Because it's cliche to say, change somebody's life and those kinds of phrases and sayings. But to actually do it and be a part of it, it's a whole nother thing. It takes what I think I do and what we do to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's another thing that we share is like one of my favorite aspects. And the reason why I've stuck around for almost a decade now is just, seeing the lives change to my clients, and not just weight loss. Weight loss is one thing. You can get weight loss if you go hire a personal trainer. You could get weight loss if you just go out and start running. But just the community and just seeing their actual like lives change and see people get happier, see people get healthier. It's just an incredible ride. So I'm really happy that you saw that and that you like had the purpose to open your own and to make sure that you can do that for as many people as possible. Yeah. So speaking of kind of when you first started your location, so back 9 years ago, how did that first year go? Because like, as I'm sure like with our location too, the first couple of years are typically the hardest, getting off the ground, getting clients in the door, obviously doing all the X's and O's, finding a team, building a culture. So what were maybe some of the things you struggled with over that first year, maybe 2 years? Was there anything in particular?
I think the biggest thing, honestly, was opening the doors 9 years ago. And I share this with people a lot. I share about where Fit Body has come as a franchise. And I think back 9 years ago, and honestly, I tell people like if Fit Body had an age to it, it was a toddler 9 years ago, right? We had a lot of things that we needed to improve on, and so the reason I really love our franchise is the way that that's changed. But to answer your question, it was just very difficult. There wasn't a lot of pathway. There wasn't a lot of standards. Or there weren't a lot of details in that regard. We did wing it a little bit there back in those days, and but so it was exciting. It was we had the idea, we had the vision, we had like I had mentioned, I had experienced that as a client, so I knew deep down where this was headed. But as far as the actual process goes, it was just difficult getting the doors open because we kind of made things up as we went along a little bit. So that was really the toughest part. I, as I mentioned, opened up on my birthday on November the 7th. I did that on purpose because in my head I was like, okay, 2 slower months of the year, get warmed up and then roll into January. And so it was just like that. November and December was very scary.
Totally.
Nobody walking in the door wondering, did I do the right thing? And then, January, February rolls around and, we never looked back. I had over 200 clients my first year.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just been an amazing journey. And again, I'd like to reiterate, where we are 9 years later as a, franchise. And if we were a toddler when I opened up 9 years ago, we're about 34 now. It is just amazing. And I love it for our new owners. What I hear them talking about and the process I see that's in place for them. And I kind of envy it, but I'm super glad for them because, we all have our journey and we all had our part to play.
100%. And I think that's really important to note is like, yes, if you come into the brand now, you get all this training, you get all of this stuff,
nice.
Which is really, really great. But, we do have owners in the brand that aren't brand new, that have been around for 9, 10, 11, Sarah Dumont, almost 15 years, which is crazy.
Right.
So I'm curious to hear just like, how do you feel the level of support as an owner that's already open and operating? So do you feel like adequately supported? Like, are you using all the resources and things like that?
I want for nothing. I mean, that's the truth. As we like to say around here, leadership's always the answer, and leadership's always the problem. And I just love our leadership team. They are experts at getting feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. That's what makes us better. So as an owner, again, I think what I went through to open up, I appreciate it now. But now 9 years in, it's just like I said, I'm just amazed at the amount of support that we have. And if you do need to tweak something, if you do need I'm on cap calls all the time, and the thing is, I'm still gathering little bits of information, little things that I need to do to improve my business. And so that learning never stops, and I appreciate that part of who we are.
100%. No, and for those of you guys watching at home, he mentioned CAP. That's our coaching and profitability team. So we take, I think it's about 10 of the most successful owners in the brand, and they're basically the leadership team for the entire brand. So they're able to kind of hop on calls with new owners or not so new owners, and they're able to kind of help them work through any issues that they have or any new initiatives and things of that nature. It's one of the many things that makes FitBody so awesome is that you have like the best people in the brand are helping make everybody else also the best in the brand, which I think is really, really great. And something else I kind of wanted to talk to you about, and what I always am curious to hear from owners, is the camaraderie between franchise partners. So, I think in most franchise models, I used this example in a previous episode, but a person that owns a Starbucks in Oklahoma probably doesn't know the person that owns a Starbucks here in Southern California. They're both franchise. They both probably have the same, they do the same product. They do all the same stuff. But they've probably never met. They probably don't talk on weekly Zoom calls. They probably don't, have cap calls or anything like that. How do you feel the camaraderie has been like since your time even of opening, and kind of what are your interactions been with other owners at world conferences, at elite trainings, at anything that you've gone to? So what does that look like for you?
I think it's just more of the same. I think it's just that reliable backdrop you have as an owner. When you need something, the support's there. When others need support, you're going to be called upon to provide that as well. And so it's nice to give and take there. But I really think it's more of the same, just in the fact that's just the fabric of who we are. Not to mention that I think we have fun.
Yeah, 100%.
Come on. What we're doing, serious business, being a business owner has its days. It can be tough. But I also just like that spirit of the professionalism and just... seems like a lot of our guys have a good sense of humor,
100%.
And we have a good time making a difference in the world. I wouldn't want to do anything else.
That's awesome. Shifting gears just a little bit. So I kind of want to cover a lot of times, somebody that's coming into being a business owner, they're in the business full time, all the time, 24/7, for the first couple of years and things like that. I'm curious, what does your day-to-day look like now that you're 9 years in? Have you kind of gotten a little bit more hands off? Are you still in the business? Are you still on the mats? Kind of what does that look like?
Yeah. So for me, I get to do what I want to do. And so the thing is, I don't have to do anything. And so when I say, hey, I want to coach, I'll still coach, and I love doing that. I love connecting with our people and being a part of that. My youngest daughter, actually is our facilitator, and so she runs the studio.
Oh, awesome.
And so after 9 years, you get yourself in a position where you have those options. And a lot of times people will ask me, what's the best thing about being a business owner? And I go, there's lots of benefits being a business owner. There's good money and there's other benefits and stuff. But for me, the number one benefit of owning my business is I run my own schedule. And that for me is worth as much as anything. That when I want to do something, I do it. When I want to go on vacation, I go. When I want to have that day off or do this or show up for that, I get to do that. So I love that flexibility and just the fact that I get to do what I want to do and just be a part of that.
Totally. So, no, and that's awesome. And that's the dream of every business owner, because the whole point of being an entrepreneur, you want that time freedom. You want that time freedom back. So build up such an awesome program where you don't have to be working in the business. Yes, you still have to work on the business, obviously, because if you just went completely hands off, never answered any emails, probably things would start to crumble apart. Like your team would probably do
Right.
pretty good for a while, but they would still need a little bit of guidance and vision. One of the things that I do here at Fit Body Bootcamp is I help train new franchise partners as they're kind of just coming into the brand. One of the things I always like to tell them is just like, hey, that first 6 to 12 months is going to be hard. You're going to be super tired.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a lot of money, like unless you're really lucky or you do a really excellent job, so you're probably not going to be able to check out of the business.
Yeah, don't preach balance
right up the
to
start.
me.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's don't talk. There's no balance in the early days.
100%. But once you get over that hump, and I'm curious, when did that happen for you? So was it 2 years in? Was it 3 years in? Where you're able to have a little bit more time freedom and not have to be like in the facility all the time?
I think for me, being in at the 4-year mark with a couple of locations when COVID hit, that kind of just twisted everything up a little bit,
yeah.
And so it's going to be after COVID, that next year, after that really, when that probably transpired. Back COVID out of it, and you're talking 3 to 4 years of just being smooth sailing.
Definitely. No, and I think it's also just really important too. It's like being in the business and working on it is also important. It's one thing to be an investor in a company and not have any say in it, but like, hey, at the end of the day, this is your business. You need to dictate exactly how it's going to run. You need to dictate what that vision is going to be. So I think that's also a really important point to bring up, is that, yes, for you, it's the 4-year mark. For some people, it's the 6-year mark. For some people, it's the 2-year mark. It comes at different times, but it's also just a testament to how hard you worked. And obviously, you even got your business through COVID. You know how many businesses closed during COVID?
Right.
Too many businesses closed during COVID. And the fact that you are still sitting here today as a franchise partner is just a testament right then and there. And that's really awesome. And I'm so happy for you. Congratulations that you've kind of earned that time freedom, and that you're able to kind of do things on your own schedule, which again is just kind of the goal of pretty much any entrepreneur. Is what they want is they want to have time to do the things that they want to do in their life, which I think is really awesome. So shifting gears again. So we talked a little bit about some of the trials, some of the tribulations and things, some of the hardships. But what is your favorite part about being a Fit Body Bootcamp owner, if you had to pick one?
I think the favorite part is the culture that we have. Culture is, I'll tell new clients when they walk in the door, if we do an orientation, I'm leading that. That's one of the things I talk about, that culture isn't just a thing. It is the most important thing, right? Because it sets the tone for everything that you do. Culture is kind of like a garden. One day it can be perfect, and a couple days later you got some weeds, and it's one of those things you have to maintenance. But I just love the feel of our studio. I love the demeanor. I love the way our coaches interact. I love the health that I have with my team. I love that. That's going to be a favorite for me. Just that, it's just a joy to walk in the door and do what we're going to do today.
Awesome.
So whether I'm coaching or I'm just talking to a client or I'm meeting with one of my staff, I love that part of life, and I love influencing people. I love the subject of leadership. And so I love being able to share that and help people grow into their best, right? I feel like it's my job.
Yeah.
My job's to help you be your best. And so I enjoy that part.
Love it. Love it. That's really, really awesome. We share that as well. So I feel the exact same way, and I'm happy to hear that you do as well. So kind of as we start to wrap this up a little bit. So again, the point of the show is just kind of people that might be at home. They might be thinking about opening a business. Hey, maybe they're thinking about opening a Fit Body Bootcamp. If you could give them maybe 1-2 pieces of advice. So they're on the fence. They haven't pulled the trigger yet on, opening a location, let alone a Fit Body location. What's one piece of advice or 2 pieces of advice you'd give that person?
I just think that, having a purpose is important, and knowing that that's going to be the next piece of your life. I think that, the details are not really what's important. It's direction that's important. Direction is the most important thing in life. And once somebody has that feeling, that leading, that persuasion, that jump in their heart that this is mine, I think that's the hard part. All of that after that's going to work out. You're going to be fine. The money's going to be there. You're going to have the resources. You're going to have the support, and you're going to have the thrills and the roller coaster ride of being a gym owner. But I just think most important, it's just right here first. Once you got it there, let's go.
I love that.
Let's go.
Find your passion, everybody, and that will bring you to your purpose. So just so thankful for you for sitting down with us today, Tommy. It was really awesome getting to hear your story.
I appreciate
and
it.
I'm sure the listeners at home also got a kick out of this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Fit Body Inside Look.